related to my website. That is something e-commerce website. So I just want to know, I mean, like, if you could see one result here, I mean, like from the Google. So it says like this one, just give the URL.
Sorry, can you repeat what you just said?
We having some issues with the indexing of our website. So basically, when our pages, basically our product pages, Google crawling are different product pages with these parameter things. I mean, like sometimes with the affiliates and sometimes with some filter URLs. So we are losing ranking for our product pages. So how we can actually overcome this thing? I mean, like we are observing this ranking drop.
So you're saying you're observing ranking drops because Google's filtering your affiliate pages or your product pages?
Google indexing our product pages. So basically, these are the pages like that is linked from some of the internal, some external sources, and some of the internal as well. I mean, like we having some different parameters. So also index.
Sorry? Sorry, you just said something like
The voice is kind of flaky, Ramesh.
I'll just show you one example. Just give me a moment.
Okay.
So this is the one. If you can open this one, so you'll just see. I mean, like we having this one product page, and then it's the same page with different parameter IDs.
okay.
So we have this page is earlier was ranking on the top page, and now it is not in somewhere like first or second page. It's just gone down to the first page. So we don't know, like.
So is there a different version of that page? So it's basically there could be multiple URLs of that page because of the added parameters, right?
Yes, but we have already set up that canonicals on all of the URLs, and they're all pointing to the one URL. That is the main parent page. But still, we are actually Google is indexing all of those versions.
So when did you start noticing this drop after?
Yes, basically the earlier the earlier when the pages were live, there were only one listing, and then when it started Google crawling different parameters and then affiliates links, and just it drops from our rankings. I mean, like from the first page to the second, and then now we are on third page, and sometimes not even on third page.
Okay, if you have set the canonicals properly and like your intended URL is ranking, then at least from a canonicalization perspective, there's nothing wrong with your URL. So it could probably just be a fluctuation in ranking, and with other sites just being pushed up and your content being the real determining factor, rather than so it's not like I'm saying it's nothing technical because the URL you intended to be canonical is ranking, right? So we try and index only one URL when we see a set of duplicate pages. We index only one URL, the one that you sometimes set as canonical, or sometimes if we feel that your recommendation is not exactly correct, we'll probably pick one correct URL from that set and we'll index it. So as long as the URL you intended to be ranking is indexed, then from a technical perspective, there's nothing wrong. So it could be more from a content perspective.
Alright, so another thing for the content perspective, I mean, like we are the one who actually first one who launched this particular product. So we are the first one who wrote, I mean, like the content for this particular product, and some other websites, for example, you have some sellers from the eBay website, they copy our content and they publish on the websites, and now they are also ranking somewhere. I mean, I don't know. Is this some kind of that is something hampering a ranking thing?
I'm sorry, you mean someone copied content from your website?
Yes, yes.
Okay, and you're saying they are ranking higher than your pages?
Not higher. I mean, like, is this the reason for? I mean, like, drop in ranking thing? I mean, like, we have not done anything wrong with the product pages. It's just that, like, we are just gone from first page to second, now on third. I mean, like, I'm just curious why we are losing ranking for a product.
So in general, if you have original content and your product is the original landing, you have a proper landing page for your product, like instead of just a listing of multiple products, if you have a proper landing page for your product, there's no reason for it to be dropped in ranking. uh, just because someone else has copied your content. It could just be other value add factors that other website has been providing. I mean,
Yeah, I think Google is also very good at uh, like saying what the original content producers. I mean, it is good at judging like who that content actually belongs to. Um, I think it should not affect you. If someone else is copying your content, that should not be a reason in most cases for a drop in ranking. And as Ashish mentioned, it could be because of several things, right? It is not. It may not be just because of the duplication problem or the problem of someone else copying your content.
for instance, like if so, say a certain author has released a book on his website, but if some e-commerce site has a proper landing page for just that book as a single product, that could be a more useful thing for Google to show to users, right? So in that case, even this is a case where it overrides the original content, because we think the other page would be better for users because they can just directly buy that book from that particular product page. So it depends on multiple factors, and it also depends upon the query that you're in. So you may be searching for certain queries or looking for certain query data for that particular page in Webmaster Tools, but it could be ranking for other queries. I mean, you could be searching for a generic query, but it could be ranking that particular product page could be ranking well for a more long tail query with that
Yeah.
product ID of sort.
Yeah, earlier we are used to rank for this long tail as well, I mean, and then we just drop from every query. It's not just only the product name, as well as some other long tail, as well as price and India thing, and then product online certain things. So we are just earlier used to rank on first page search. Now we have just, for all of the queries, we are just ranking somewhere on third or fourth page. So that is something that bothering us, something like why the product is not ranking well. So that is something I just want to ask from, like, is there anything we are doing wrong? Check on our website or on product pages, basically, where we need to improve things. So,
So again, like I said, from a technical perspective, from what you said, I gather there's nothing wrong. So, I mean, you can just try and look what other product pages of your site. Like you mentioned that this particular page is ranking in fourth page or so. You can just check with other product pages and see what the differences are and why. Like
yes, so
you can
it's
just,
for other as well. I mean, like, it's not just for the only this product, it's actually happening with all our product pages. So earlier they are ranking good, and then when Google start indexing these pages with different parameters, it just be just losing our ranking. So I might be saying just because of that, I mean, like, Google have seen some duplicate content within our website, so that might be causing some ranking those things. So
So again, the parameters issue, as long as like the one that you intend to be canonical is being indexed, there's nothing wrong. So that shouldn't really be, you shouldn't really be focused on that as why your site is being dropped in ranking or so. So because like you said that page is canonical and it is being indexed, right? Like it is being shown in the search engine.
yeah,
So that you should really like leave that part out of what the focus, and look more about the content, and maybe even look at the kind of backlinks you're getting, just to make a simple check to see if someone's trying to manipulate or spam you, and then look at the other URLs that are ranking for that query and see maybe they could be even more relevant than your link, right? So look at it from a content perspective, from the quality of the content perspective, and because technically, from what I gather, there doesn't seem to be any issue. Like it's Google crawling the parameters, and that's currently, from what I gather, it's not really an issue. So it's more of a content thing.
alright. So you're saying we need to work on our content thing.
Sorry?
So your suggestion is to, like, we need to work on our content part basically to improve our user engagement.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. We've got a question from Sunny. Bots can't cross the Ajax loader and content of this page is not getting it. So Sunny, like before even taking a look, one simple check that you need to make to see if a particular page is not being indexed because bots, like you're saying bots can't cross the Ajax loader, but just make sure to check if the properties or entities of that page, like the files in different folders, if they're blocked by robots, just in case. Okay. Okay.
So one thing, looking at that that page that you mentioned, Sunny, is we don't actually see the content on those pages. So if you use view source for that page, we don't see that content there. And essentially, we really want to be able to find this content on the page directly. There are still users out there who use browsers without JavaScript activated, and they need to be able to see something as well. So using Ajax and similar technologies to enhance a page is great, but if this is the only way that you're providing the content on that page, then it might be hit and miss if we actually realize what we need to do to find this content. So if you really need to have this content indexed, make sure it's directly on the HTML page.
Any follow-up questions? So we'll take questions from the Q&A. Right. Nick asks, I believe there's a bug in Webmaster Tools reported links when two sites link to the same PDF file. It shows as a link from one site to the other, even though there's no actual link between sites. Could this hurt my site? So first, I mean, simply having a backlink to your site, unless it's coming from a really sketchy source, and even if it's just a one-off, it shouldn't really hurt your site. And secondly, I don't really get how we'll show data for your site, backlink data for your site without it actually being a link. So you're saying, say A.com and B.com are linking to a PDF file hosted on C.com. Then, and I assume you're saying that you, for A.com's Webmaster Tools report, you're seeing link from B, even though you don't think there's one. But we generally provide good, I mean, we provide example links for like from exactly which page it's coming from. So you should be able to see that in your Webmaster Tools. All right, we have another question from Stephen. Just looking at the Google Docs. Pharma, black hat spam. So 1 second, we'll just take a look at this question. All right, so we do see a lot of hacked content, especially on .edu sites, and it's more about the websites trying to fix their vulnerabilities. So we keep, like especially for things like WordPress versions, and we keep reminding webmasters that you need to fix, like upgrade your versions and fix these vulnerabilities. So from our side, all we can do is try and notify the users from the SERPs, and also tell like webmasters to upgrade their system so that they can fix the vulnerabilities that these hackers are exploiting. So frankly, a lot of the sites that are hacked are simply being hacked because they're pretty much using old versions, and hackers are just exploiting the old vulnerabilities. So it's nothing like I mean, for the new versions, most of them are pretty stable, and that it's more from a webmaster's perspective rather than us. We can't really do much other than notify the webmasters. And if you go to google.com/webmasters/hack, we have a pretty good step-by-step explanation of how you can fix your site that has been compromised or like hacked by either hackers or some kind of malware has been injected in your website. And it has pretty good tips even if you want to do it yourself or contact your hosting service provider to help. And okay, we have a German question. John, you want to take that and maybe explain in German?
Okay, let me check. Okay, I think the question is that some of the Google Plus content was found on some third-party site. How did that get there and what can I do? Essentially, what is probably happening is that this third-party site is pulling this data from Google Plus. So if you want to have that removed, you need to go to that third-party site to actually have that content removed. That's not something that we could control. That's hosted on some other website. So you have to kind of contact that webmaster and see if they're willing to remove this content. From what I've heard from other third-party sites that do this and people who've had problems like this, usually these third-party sites are very happy to comply with any kind of request like this. So contacting them is usually not a big of a problem.
Any other live questions, Sunny or Ramesh?
Yes, I would like to ask another question. Just that on what parameters Google decides whether a page is relevant and trustworthy?
Sorry, okay, on what parameters Google decides a page is relevant and trustworthy?
Yeah.
So it depends upon a multiple of parameters. So any page. It doesn't like even if you create a new page today, as long as the content is good and it's relevant to a particular user query, there's no reason why we wouldn't rank that way. Of course, I mean if there are competitors, there are other sites that have better content. Your site may not rank well because those sites have been there and a lot of people are linking to them. They have gotten some reputation. So just because like if you create some new content and if there are other sites that are better than your particular content, those could be ranking. But as you like build user engagement around your website and a lot of people come to your site and you promote your site with other sources like social media, your site could build up reputation and people could start linking to your site, sharing your website, and that way your content could rise up in rankings.
Alright, so
like parameters, it's mostly content. So relevancy, like how relevant your content is to that particular query.
okay. And you mentioned here, I mean, like the user experience and the usability thing. I mean, like, does Google consider also this thing when they are actually ranking one page, or maybe they are actually doing this? They would, I mean, like, we will get this thing. I mean, whether the queries that went for the page or not after user landing on the page, they see, I mean, like, whether the page is actually engaging with the user or not.
So user experience is obviously important, right? So if your site is, if users like your website, that's how they'll recommend it more to other users on the web. That's how like you get more engagement. If the experience is not as good, like that wouldn't translate into engagement, which wouldn't translate into better rankings. We'll take another question from Andy. My website jumps from position 4 to position 20 to 15 on a day-to-day basis. What causes this fluctuation? So rankings, I mean, we release a lot of updates and rankings fluctuate. That's pretty natural. So like content, we could just we keep adding a lot of updates to our search engine rankings. So like even some small difference in content between two sites could change their positions on a daily basis. So it's kind of natural. So unless you have, I mean, a major dip, there shouldn't really be anything you should, overly concerned about.
One thing I sometimes see is it depends a bit on how you look at the rankings. So sometimes people use rank tracking software to check the rankings, and there are a lot of factors that go into ranking, from the location of the user, personalization factors, all of those things. And if you're using a generic ranking tracking software, then that can show these fluctuations. And similarly, in Webmaster Tools, when we show the ranking there, that's based on what was actually shown in the search results, and that also reflects personalization, location of the user, all of those kind of factors that you don't necessarily directly have within your page. So depending on how many people are seeing your site, when they're seeing this, if there's personalization involved, then it's definitely possible that you see some of these fluctuations in the raw average or top position that you might see in these tools.
Thanks, sir. So the next one from, should I use rel nofollow in categories of my website? Google didn't post from categories as duplicate. So if you, it's simple. So if you have a article URL with its own that content is showing up under articles slash that particular URL, and you have that article under categories also. So I mean, it's totally fine. Like that wouldn't really be considered as duplicate content, because the categories page contains snippets from other articles also. So it's sort of a mashup of different articles, and this is and your unique URL for that, for a single article, is that it's a proper landing page just for that particular article. So I don't think rel nofollow is not really necessary, because it's not a you're not selling any links or anything like that. And if yeah, that's about it. So you, as long as you're not selling links, it should be fine. That wouldn't really be considered as duplicate content, because there are multiple articles under categories. I have multiple snippets of different articles under categories, and your and each one of them has a separate unique URL for that particular article. So if someone's searching for content on content for that single particular article, we're more inclined to show the unique URL rather than the categories page. So it shouldn't really be a concern. Anything like that?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
We'll take Stephen's question. In response of pharma hack sites, can't Google de-index such websites? And in most cases, I don't see any warning from Google in SERPs for hack sites. So we do show warnings for all hack sites in SERPs. But if you think you're seeing a hack site and it's not, we are not showing a warning, please report to us using the report spam tool. But as far as I understand, we do show warnings for all hacked sites and all sites infected with malware. Even even if the website is just linking to some content that's hosting malware, even that we generally basically cross-site malware warnings also we are inclined to show. So done.
I actually want to ask another question. That is something related to the product images. So we have this product and we have this multiple images of this product, and how do you actually suggest to, I mean, like for the alt and the file intent for having same model, and then how we should actually go for different alt for these images?
Sorry, I'm so sorry. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, actually we have these product pages, and for each product we have these multiple images for the product, and so we just want to know, I mean, like how we actually go for like the alt of these images. So basically, right now, what we are doing is like we are just putting the product name on all of these images. So is it a good practice, or we need to improve this? I mean, like to change something in it to actually to say, I mean, some different thing, all that for all the images.
If I got your question right, you mean to say you have multiple products for pictures for a given product. So how can you make the all text of all of these images unique? Is that your question?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, if I had this, if I had a product and if I had like multiple images for a given product, I'll try to see what I can do with the alt text. Maybe say, for example, a product is in different colors, then I would include the color name in the alt text. I will try to describe that image as much as possible in the alt text uniquely. So if it's a side view, I would say, okay, so and so mobile device, side view, back view, and things like that. So
so you're just describing the image, right? So, and I'm stressing this, but there's no need to simply add, context just for the sake of, adding text and trying to rank. Rather, just simply, it's fine to simply just give a brief description of what that image is. Like if it's a side view of the product, you can just say side view. That's good enough, actually.
Okay.
We have another question from Girish. We have some very old websites which were ranking for years and they're not ranking now. There's no manual penalty and we have taken action for backlinks and other issues. So honestly, without looking at the website, we can't really speak much. But like if there's a huge drop in ranking and you don't see any manual actions, then it's most probably because of either it's probably because of your content quality going down, or other better content out there has popped up on the web. But again, without actually looking at the website, we can't really.
yeah, I think if you're seeing a steady decrease in your traffic as to what it used to be, then maybe it's a good time to like go back and check the quality of your content. And if you have any other competitors coming up in that space who are providing better service, better content, so you might want to go check that out and see what you can do best with your site and provide better to your users.
Andy's question is on reconsiderations. We recently submitted a reconsideration request which was denied. Google provided some examples of some URLs which were in violation of guidelines. One URL was in a local directory, the listing was not paid, and the link was naked URL. Why does this violate? So we try and provide good examples of spammy blogs or low quality directories as much as we can. So as far as I know, if a directory was given, it's most probably because it's a low quality directory which has links like, even if you may not have paid for that link, there could be other paid links from that particular directory. But again, without so if you can provide the exact example of that directory, you can give a better judgment about if that is a spammy URL or not. Vidya, do you want to pop in?
Yeah. So usually, as Ashish mentioned, we try to like give genuine examples. In some cases, maybe it happened so that the link was not really a bad link that was sent in an example. But however, when we take decision, we just not take decision based on the links we're sending as examples. We'll take a look at a lot of things. So in most cases, these decisions are like correct. So if you have gotten a wrong example, we apologize for that. Although we take extreme care that we provide like good examples.
And since you've asked this question, might as well talk about reconsiderations. So with regards to reconsiderations, when you're submitting a reconsideration request, please make sure you're providing good documentation. So if you're if you have a manual action on certain just a partial pages for your site and a link violation, please provide it'd be good if you can provide examples in a doc of some sort on what kind of links you try to take action on, what you could remove, what you couldn't remove, and what you disavow. So this would give us a comprehensive view of what kind of effort you took to clean up your backlink profile. So documentation is a very important part when you're submitting a reconciliation request. All right, we have a question from Nima. Do you have any plans to provide more in-depth data about Google authorship in Google Webmaster Tools? Currently, we have one tool under labs where you can see a few statistics about URLs with authorship enabled in UK. So we will keep you updated if anything new is coming up on authorship. But as of now, we don't have any updates. Sorry about that. Do you have any more questions?
Yes, I guess. So it's again for the product page. So basically, we have this third-party review software on our website. So basically, it records all our reviews. So the thing is, whenever someone posts any review, so it links back to the same URL with some hashtag in the URL thing. So basically, for example, if user A is registered for this and is putting some reviews on our product page, so from this username itself, it's linking to the same product URL with the hash thing, and then whatever this user is writing it, and then we have this other different links within that review system. So for example, whether reviews is helpful or not, there is a link for yes or no. So both links pointing to the same URL with the hash thing. So for this thing, I mean, like for the one product page, we are just pointing to the same URL from different usernames or from different link attributes within that review system. So you can say, I mean, like I'm having this one page. So you can say, apart from these navigation links and some other different related links, we have this hundreds or maybe 200 links pointing to the same URL. So is this something that is we need to worry about this thing?
I'm really sorry. I don't think I got the complete context of your question. could you repeat?
Yeah, actually we have this review system. It says like, which one is our reviews. We're using this one for the reviews on our website. So whenever someone registered and sending any, or we can say, any writing any reviews on our website, so they're from their username or from any link that is present in this review system that is linking to the same URL for the product page with the just after that trailing slash, and then you can say the hash thing. So
No, sorry. So you have basically a user review system on your website where users can come up, sign up, and then post reviews.
Yes.
Right? And when they post reviews, their reviews are posted. I mean, the link that you're saying that goes against their review is their username.
From username, so basically, for example, the username is A. So from their name itself, it's pointing to the same page with this within that URL. It's the same product URL. So I'll just show you one example where I'm saying you can get some clarity.
You mean to say when you have a review for a product, right, and the name by which that review is posted, that name would link back to the product page?
Yes.
Yeah? And would this cause any problems?
Yes, and this will happen for every users whenever they are posting any reviews, it's linking back to the same URL.
Right, and all of this data on your own website, right, on the same domain?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't see any problem here. I think if at all you have these reviews on pages that are spread across your site, then probably it will help to see like what product this review is given to. And even otherwise, if the reviews are on the same product page, I don't see any problem generating out of this kind of thing.
Because he's reviewing that product and the link points to that particular product, so it's relevant and it's totally fine. And I think it's just a feature of that third-party software.
Yeah, I think it's a common practice where people don't provide their own links. Usually, those reviews are linked back to the page.
All right, then what about the anchor text? I mean, like this page, for example, one page is, let's say, the Nokia Lumia phone, and then we are having this diversification of, like, you can say, the different anchor text, and they're pointing to the same page. So this means, I mean, like, that is something like not relevant for my page.
See, if it's automated, I assume whatever product they're asking, they're writing the review for, the link is pointing. So if they're writing a review for a Nokia Lumia 520 or something, so the anchor text I assume would be something like Nokia Lumia 520, right? Or review for Nokia Lumia 520.
But do you mean to say that people are allowed to give names and they instead of their names they are entering these keywords? Is it?
No, no, no. This is something different. I mean, like, for example, I'm Ramesh. I'm posting some review on my website. So my name flashes there as a Ramesh, and from this name, from this word Ramesh, it links back to the same page for the Nokia Lumia I'm talking about. I mean, like that. So that is something I'm saying. I mean, like from this different usernames, for example, Ramesh, or maybe some other usernames, it linking back to the same page with some different anchor text. So that is something I want to ask. I mean, like this will, that is we need to worry.
If the anchor text is relevant, I don't see any problem. So,
So
but if the automated software is, if it's written in some way that they're trying to simply generate, like manipulate the keywords and simply trying to add in something, then there should be an issue. But as long as it's, natural and they're simply linking back to the product they reviewed with the name of the title of the product or something, that should be totally fine.
okay, but the thing is, they are not linked with their product name or something. They are linked with their usernames.
That's fine too. I mean, they're just linking because they have a profile on that review aggregator thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. There's nothing wrong.
Okay.
So we have a question from Sunny. By the way, Sunny, please add your questions to the Q&A app because it's easier for us to manage that. So, anyway, on 2nd May, we got a message in Google Webmaster Tools, unnatural outbound links. After a few days, we get any manual spam actions applied to the site have been revoked or adjusted, but rankings are not good. We've taken this question quite a few times. So you get a manual action, we revoke it, and the rankings don't pop up. But Syed, I think
Yeah. So and especially I think your case, you're talking about outgoing links, and it is not about backlinks, right? So I think yes. So I think I don't see a reason for your ranking to go down because your site was taking some kind of manual action because of outgoing links, right? So I mean that would not, I mean as far as I know that would not result in a direct drop in your rankings in the first place. And even if you have seen a drop in ranking, I think of course, I mean there could be factors. I mean in several cases what happens is people come. I mean their websites have been taken manual action upon, because of which their rankings are affected. They file for a reconsideration. Their request is taken well, and they're re-included in our index. But what happens is people assume that they'll get back the traffic that they used to get, and some of this traffic that they had built was because of the spammy techniques they were using, right? So when these spammy techniques have gone, naturally this traffic will also go, right? And besides this, there are multiple factors that keep affecting the ranking of your website. So I think it is not right to expect after a manual action is revoked, it is not right to expect to get your traffic back at where it was. There will be some fluctuation definitely, and I think it is completely normal.
All right, we'll take next question from Dimpy. I have a website, it was ranking well, but suddenly we have 1 lakh URLs blocked and our robots.txt file is created. So Dimpy, one thing is, apart from, of course, if you block content in your robots file, then there could be a good chance that, we'll show a lot of URLs have been blocked in Webmaster Tools. But if that isn't the case, then it could be a case where we are not able to access your robots file. So if your robots file is clean, like blank, or it's 404 or something, then we assume there's no robots file, and we'll crawl the site normally. But if we are having trouble accessing your robots file, either because of server errors or some blocking in the firewall, it could just be some because the hosting service provider has been seeing Google IPs a lot and maybe we blocked it. And if we can't access your robots file, then we will back off and try to come back another time to see if we can then access your robots file. Because if we can't see what's there, if your robot file exists or what rules you have applied in your robots file. We don't want, we generally try to be cautious and not crawl that site at that point of time. So in okay, how to check whether we can see robots. So in Webmaster Tools, under crawl errors, you can normally see a dashboard of sorts where we talk about server connectivity, DNS issues, and robots fetch. See if that's a green tick mark. If that's not, then there's some issue we are facing while accessing your robots file. And if that's fine and your URLs are still blocked, just check to see if there are some meta tags with that say no index of or no follow or something like that. Because if your homepage is indexed and if you hit no follow from there for the remaining pages, there could be, I mean, we will back off from crawling the links on your homepage, so we may not be able to get the other links on your website. So check the meta tags, meta robots tags in your site, and check Webmaster Tools to see if we can access your robots file properly. And if all these are fine, just put a question in a forum with extra details so that we can take care of it. Does that answer your question? Thanks. We'll take a look at the Q&A. All right. Hardiel asks, some directory sites are asking us to pay to get our website linked. Okay, when you're trying to clean up your backlink profile, we suggest that you try and remove as many links as you can. But if in some cases people are asking for you to pay money to get remove your links, you can simply you can use the Disavow feature in Webmaster Tools, and we have a blog post. You can read about that in our Google Webmaster Central blog. So you can simply disavow the links that you can't, people are asking money for. We will discount those links when we are looking at your backlink. Eric asks, Vidya, it's for Vidya. So do you guys think that the current implementation of HTML5 web apps are too good to be used now? I have read the definition of these technologies. Like web apps, they don't really come under search indexing. So I mean, we can't really take that question, but we have app indexing implemented for Play Store apps, so you can just read up on that. How much time Google takes for action on Google Disavow file? We don't have a specific timeline, but once you submit your Disavow file, like we'll take a look at the links, and it could take a few weeks for us to implement that. But if you submit a Disavow file for a manual action, we will take a look at what kind of links you disavow. So if you feel there's some kind of algorithmic label and you applied a disavow file for that, then it could take a few weeks for us to discount those links. But if it's for a manual action, we will take into account your disavow file when we are looking at your reconciliation. You can ask, in response for pharma hack sites, please check the search query where you can't find any warning and almost 7 to 8. Thanks. We'll take a look at that. Google. So the next question is, Google Plus is beneficial for a website ranking. How to increase backlinks for much? So Google Plus links are generally no followed, so you won't really see a ranking boost if you're getting many links from Google Plus. But I mean, if it's for a social media engagement perspective, I mean, you can just promote your site. You can create a Google Plus page and you can have a community for that page, and if users join, you can engage with them and try and get more traffic to your website that way. Andy asks, from my previous question, the directory was Gold Coast Online Directory linked to our website. Let me just take it. Andy, I mean, on first look, that website looks seems to be fine. Maybe it was a mistake on our part, but again, like we look at a lot of examples, and I mean the URL we provided could be wrong, but like please again, in any case, just take another look at your backing profile and submit a new reconciliation request after you provide good documentation. But again, this could be a mistake on our part, but like the other, if we still do look at other examples, it's just that the one that we provided is not exactly the, it's a wrong one. Sorry about that. Any other questions? Okay, Mohita asked,
We've been noticing cluster results for some queries wherein our competitors have about 3 to 4 pages listed on our first page. Why are we getting to see cluster results? You mean to say when you're searching on Google, you're seeing results from the same website? Is that what you mean? Because you have said competitors have about 3 to 4 pages listed on our first page. What do you mean by our first page? So if you're talking about if you're seeing like multiple pages from the same website, if you're seeing multiple pages from the same website in the Google search results, that may happen in some cases where we think that there are more than one pages that are very relevant to your query, although it is very rare. We try to like keep our results as diverse as possible. But if there are more links that are like relevant to your search query from a given website, then you may see, right? And it may also happen sometimes that a website may rank, say for example, in a listing for maps, and then it may rank for normal search results, right? So these kind of things may also happen.
I have a question from Justin. How many queries can URL rank for? I've never seen a page and a top page is ranked for more than 200 queries. So there's no set number. If it's relevant for more than 200 queries, there's no reason why a particular page shouldn't rank for over 200 queries. But I assume there wouldn't be many pages that would be relevant for over. I mean, like if you have an article about a very trending news, let's say MH70 flight, and if there's an article and if it's a very say an official release from the Malaysian government, and it could rank for almost all kinds of queries under MH70, so 370. So that could be an example of this. Question from Hartier. We're not able to get ranking back for main keywords of our website. We've taken all actions like removing spam links, removing anchor text. There's no manual action, but the website is not ranking well for those. Again, it's something similar to what Syed said. There could, if you have, if you had ranking, high ranking before, and you've been removing bad backlinks to your from that are pointing to your website, then it could simply be a case of some of the unnatural ranking boost that you've received is now gone. So it would take some time for you to get back there by building better content and getting more engagement and better backlinks from better and organic backlinks from your users. I know it's like a pretty standard answer, but content is really the most important part, and having if you had better rankings when when they were unnatural links, it could simply be that unnatural boost has provided you with those rankings, and once you cleaned up, they could be it's simply a case of now you're ranking for the content that's presently there instead of the boost that you had from the unnatural backlinks. But again, it's not like just because you have unnatural backlinks, you will have good ranking. We will, once we take a look at your profile, and you could even drop down a lot in rankings because of those. So it's not a good practice to simply have simply leave those unnatural links just like that. It's better to clean them up. We're done. Do we have any more questions?
So for the search term Mohita American Swine, I just checked on google.com, and what I see is americanswine.com is ranking as first result, and what I see below is something called site links. And if you meant by multiple results, the results immediately below americanswine.com, then these are not actually independent results, but it is a part of the first result that is ranking, and these are called site links. So when we feel that there are more internal pages from a given website that could be relevant to a given query, we show these inner pages, which could be like easier for people to navigate to from the search results page itself. And these site links can appear, in a couple of formats actually. Sometimes you see only the links. Sometimes you see links with their own descriptions. So this is what it is. If you were talking about this.
I hope that answered your question. So unless we get any other question, I think we're pretty done.
Yep. Any final questions, or we can call it a day?
And this we answer questions in Hindi also. So in case you want.
No, it's okay. I'm gonna go down.
Mohita asked, sorry, I meant google.co.in and not sitelinks.
I'm confused. So basically, you mean your search term is American Swan, is it?
Yes.
And you're searching for that on google.co.in.
The chat.
So I see, like for that term, I see like an ad for americanswan.com, and then there's the first result again is americanswan.com.
And in this case, the advertisement also is of americanswan.com, right? So on the top, what you see is a sponsored listing, and below are the organic listings. So in this case, like coincidentally, both the things belong to americanswan.com. So probably that could also be the case.
And you don't really see other like links from one particular site more than once.
Yeah.
So if you can provide a screenshot of some sort explaining, that would be better. We'll take the next question from RTL. What's the best action we can take if someone copies content from our website?
Yeah, so I would say first of all, there is nothing much to worry about, because as I had mentioned previously as well, Google is very good at detecting who the content actually belongs to, who the original owners of that content are, and we rank accordingly. And we are pretty good at doing this. However, if you see something that is not fair that is happening with your website, you can always report. This is one of the things that you can do. So using the report spam tool, you can go and report the websites that you're thinking are copying content from your website. One of the other things you can do is you can contact the webmasters of those other websites and ask them to simply take that content down.
But of course, there's a difference between someone copying your content and like in some cases where you're just providing that like you have a product that you've launched, but it's being listed on other sites also, like I've talked previously. So if you just have some description about the product along with other content on your site, but there's a proper e-commerce site that has just a proper product page for that particular product, we could just, in some cases we feel that users are better served by showing this product page rather than the original site. But if it's like pure content, like you're an author of an article and someone's scraping that, in that case we are inclined to show your content first, and the people who are scraping, they generally, we take care of those. We have methods to not rank those kind of pages. I think Steven's question. So we are out of time, so we'll take a look at the doc you provided. Thanks, Steven. But we can't really go through the doc now. Sorry about that. We'll take Andy's question. Do positive customer reviews in Google Plus Place listings help with map listings? So we generally deal mostly with search engine rankings, so we are not 100% confident about answering Google Plus places questions. So like we're not the best people to do that. So hopefully, I mean, I'm sure there's a proper Google Plus forum for that. So sorry about that. Girish asks, in Webmaster Tools, crawl errors show 404s are not found. Is it harmful for a website? I hope that's what you mean. So 404s are not really an issue. I mean, 404s are non-existent pages. So if you are simply seeing 404s on Google Plus or Google Webmaster Tools, we are just reporting that we found certain links on your site and they're not found. They don't have any content on them. So they don't have any content, so they don't really need to be ranking. So it doesn't really affect ranking for your website. But if it's you can just check to make sure that those pages actually should have some content, and there was some server configuration error or something from your part. You can just check to make sure those pages are really simply 404s rather than uh, you know rather than actual content that should be ranked. Stephen asks, why can't Google remove such blocks with comment spam? So I'll take a look at this, but comment spam doesn't necessarily invalidate the content of that page itself, right? So I can write a good article on my blog, and if I don't maintain my comments properly, there could be bunch of spammers trying to spam my use my comment section to spam links to their website. So that's a fault of mine with regards to comment spam, but Google can't penalize my site, like my content for that. All Google can do is try and not give like page rank boost to those kind of the people linking in comments. I hope that answered your question, Stephen. So it's basically we can't take action on the owner of the blog because he didn't make because some other people are abusing his comment system. Like all we can do is try and not give any ranking value to those comments, to the links in those comments.
But of course, I think it's a good practice to keep your blog clean always, because that affects the user experience. And it may, in some cases, if there are like too many comments, it may also affect your load time and stuff like that. And those kind of things may have an impact on your ranking. So it is always good to take care of your blog. But however, as Ashish mentioned, it doesn't invalidate the actual content. The content may be still original content and valuable, so we would still we can't pull that out of the index.
How is schema helpful for a website? So if you have products or if you have recipes or any of the content types that schema supports, we can show rich snippets for your website. Say if you have reviews and people are writing, so for a certain search result, we can show the ratings for that particular recipe or so, and how many people voted for it or something like that. So this is not really a ranking factor. Rather, it's just that it gives more information about that search result to users when they're looking at it. So that way, there could be more inclination to click on that search result. So it's not a ranking thing. Rather, it's more on better search results and more information in the search result. So sorry about that, but we are out of time. So thanks for attending and thanks for asking all those questions, guys. We'll see you again in another month, and next time we hope there will be some Hindi questions also. So thanks and see you guys.
Bye.
Bye.